Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. This is our last interview for the month of November, and we have one interview left, which is December 6th. But today, we are actually finishing a conversation with Austin Saylor. Austin was back back in July, and we did not get anywhere near finished. So it ended up being such a great timing. He released his beta course on Monday. It's open for 5 days, so it is still open for you guys. And it really kind of takes it from knowing nothing about After Effects to knowing how to do it in an 8-week course. And so we're going to really dig into that and kind of dig into the whole thing. I've already been asking him a bunch of questions about how he got his list and all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested in marketing or trying to figure out how to reach a group of people that are doing something specific, I think, and just some of the scary parts of releasing a product or a course or something, I think we're going to get into some of that today. And Austin's been also traveling around. That was when we kind of caught him. He was just leaving North Carolina and was traveling in his car with his French bulldog and his wife. And they were going to be tootling around for quite a while. And they have settled for at least 6 months in Phoenix?
Basically Phoenix, yeah. Tempe.
Okay. In basically Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And he likes it. And they have air conditioning, thankfully.
Yes.
So, Austin, thanks for coming back. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Glad to be back.
I'm glad to have you. All right. So we're going to jump in because you do have this amazing course. I want to tell everybody about it because really there's no Black Friday deal, but actually the course you're discounting at $200, correct?
Yes.
Right. So
yep.
It's a whole Black Friday week deal, I guess.
Black Friday week. Yeah. I just wanted to make it as appealing and good of a deal as possible. It's the beta course. So yep.
All right.
Course is $200 off and
all right.
Sorry.
So no, it's okay. So if somebody wants to go, I'm just going to go ahead and give them the link. So it's letteringanimation.com and they can go there and check it out. There's some, if you get on the list, if you're not ready to do that right now, you will be opening it up in the future, just not right away, not in January. You'll probably use all the stuff you've learned from the beta and then go to the next kind of level, but it won't ever be this, Black Friday dealed off.
Right. Yeah. It's the best deal that it'll have. I just want to, I want it to be as big of an incentive to get people that are really interested in getting in and learning how to do lettering animation and trusting me that I can pull it off and get people to where they want to be, which I believe in myself. So I'm just excited that some people have already bought and I don't know. I'm pumped to take people through it.
Yeah. And so there's more that they get than so kind of tell them what because me and you kind of talked about this last week a little bit. So it's 8 weeks, but what am I doing in these 8 weeks? And I asked, I don't really know After Effects. I kind of understand what a keyframe is. I've done some stuff in it, but it's really bulky and there's a big kind of learning curve, right?
Sure. Yep. Yeah. So when I first started learning After Effects, when I decided that I wanted to become a motion designer, I had already fiddled with After Effects for on and off for a couple of years, watching all the tutorials, and there's lots of great content out there. But yeah, you're right. There's so many things that After Effects can do, and it's really overwhelming. Where do you start? And so that's where I want to come in and say all right, here's where you start, especially if you want to do lettering animation. And so there's a intro to After Effects module where I teach you all of the super basic, just understanding what After Effects does so that you can go from whether you understand, I know keyframes, or if you don't know keyframes, I'm teaching that too. So basically get in, you can learn the very basics of After Effects for what you need to know for lettering animation. And then each week I'm releasing a new module, and each week there's a handful of lettering animation techniques. So it's kind of tutorial and demo based stuff. Mm-hmm. There's also this thing I'm calling the creative boost. And that's basically dealing with things that we all deal with as artists, like creative block, lack of inspiration, being inspired by somebody, but not wanting to copy them. So I'm basically pairing the technical stuff with some creative stuff. And then there's a challenge that's based off of those two things. And
each week.
Then each week. Yeah.
Right.
And then I'm also trying to put together another thing for the course that I'll be adding in as I go, called the Speed Boost. Excuse me. And that's basically like, I want to teach people those like fundamentals of After Effects so that you really know how to like make awesome animations by scratch, by hand. But I also understand that people want to get in and have some quick wins.
Right.
And so I'm creating the Speed Boost so that I can explain, all right, if you don't have time this week to dig into all of these details, here's something that you can do to get something awesome out of this, maybe in an hour or two. It might not be the most super polished thing, but it's something that will be better than nothing if you don't have the time.
So just to kind of clarify, you are teaching how to animate lettering, but this could be applicable for logos and sometimes we tend to think, oh, well, it's just letters. I'll just do it the same way. And that's where you're talking about. You might hit that roadblock and you end up just doing the same thing, but there's so many more ways to do it. And you're kind of asking us to push ourselves and push our creativity, right?
Yep, exactly.
All right. So, do you want to show some of the animations that you did in your 36-day or 36 I remember that you don't like the number 36, but
yeah,
so why did you choose
36 days?
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of basing it off of the 36 days of type thing, where it's like every day you do the next letter. And then I realized that the time I was trying to put into each letter, I just couldn't fit it into a day on top of doing a lot of freelance work.
Right.
So I wish I hadn't called it 36 days of lettering animation, but maybe alphabet animation or something. But yeah, I'll screen share here and show some of those pieces.
That'd be great.
Cool. Can you see it?
Yep. So, yeah, are you taking somebody else's lettering, or are you doing some of this lettering as well?
I'm doing about half of the lettering, and then I've got a whole bunch of buddies who have lent me their letters so that I could animate them. So yeah, I did about half of these. I did this A.
So one of the things with all of these is they loop. So do you cover that in the course, is how to like where to start and how to do a loop? Because I think doing a loop, I love Bob's L that you did. That's like one of my favorite. It looks like you're drinking like moonshine straight. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
It looked like a mason jar there for a minute.
These are great cups. Have you ever had one that has the like?
I can't barely see it good.
Like a tangent. Okay, well,
because you're so little. Maybe when you get bigger and there's not an animation on the screen.
Oh, that's true. I am little. Okay, that's totally not important.
You'll show it in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. So looping. One of the lessons. Okay. Yeah, one of the lessons is about looping, and I show two different techniques. One is very simple. It's called the simple loop, and it teaches you how to take what you've done. And if you don't have time, like a lot, we have time crunches on a lot of these things, and sometimes you just need to get it out the door. So I've got a simple way to maybe drop the animation out and start it over. Basically, I'm calling that the simple loop. But then things like this one's a pretty simple loop. It just kind of reverses. But yeah, you're right. Things like this, or like
L. Your name, when your name is done, because you kind of. Well, this one's a more difficult loop for sure.
Yeah, this one's definitely a more advanced loop. And I go over different techniques for coming up with, how to do something. I'll show how to do this one, but this won't tell you how to do every kind of loop that you want to do.
Right.
But I'm giving, examples and different ways to come up with, like, how can I go from the end of this thing and start it over, but not just maybe reverse or drop the animation off screen. But yeah, this, go ahead.
The other thing is that it was just an L. It didn't have a lawnmower with it. So you're using so would you consider this one that, where it kind of goes from blank to, it's kind of just a reverse. Is that still a simple one?
Yeah, this one's a pretty simple one.
Okay.
The basically this, I'll go and explain the simple loop. in After Effects, you have what's called a composition. It's kind of like an artboard in Illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can duplicate your composition and then reverse it and like basically tell it to happen in a shorter amount of time. And that's kind of the essence of a simple loop, or at least one type of simple loop. And that's what I did for this one. And yeah.
So what about colors? Because you'll usually have some pretty bright, fun colors. Do you go over that, or do you go over textures? Because that double you made was full of textures, and the V.
Yeah.
Are you covering
so
that too?
The textures is the last lesson, or basically the last lesson. I want it to be a bringing it all together kind of thing.
This one's really cool. So I don't know how you thought of this one.
I just sketched a bunch of stuff on this one. You know how the creative process can be at the beginning. I had a bunch of stuff that I hated, and then all of a sudden I just came up with some weird things, and I had just moved out to Arizona. And so I was like, okay, I really want this to be like desert themed. What do I feel like the desert thing is? And I was like, snakes and arrows. Like that's totally, and they fit that shape too. Right?
Yeah. So do you cover audio at all? Because I know that most of these don't have any.
I don't have anything on audio.
Okay.
Yeah. I occasionally do audio for my work, but I really like hiring people for that. That's a specialty that's...
Yeah. But can you go to the...
Of course, if anybody...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I've been doing audio for a lot of my work. So of course, if students in the class have questions, I have resources and ways to do that. But I personally like to keep like that really is like such a whole different level of work and a different mind space to be in.
Because you kind of have to work with the beats at some points and doing things to that. Can you show the one that's the learn how to animate or learn that one? Yeah. Because you have music in that one.
This one I can, if I unplug this.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't hear audio. Do you hear audio?
I don't either. But
I don't know anybody's audio.
Oh.
You know what? That might just not work.
Okay. Well, anyway, people, that one has audio, and I did put it in Instagram, so if you wanted to check it out. But it's like the lettering animation course, and it has some really nice. And so you're kind of using sound to kind of use some of your swipes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. And actually, I hired a guy named Jeff Moberg to do that audio for me.
Oh, cool.
Yep. That was exciting. I've wanted to hire him for a while to do stuff, and this was kind of the perfect thing to bring him in on.
That's awesome. How did you meet him?
I met him on Twitter at some point, just because I had seen him do some really cool work for other motion designers. And then I met him at Blend Motion Design Festival in Vancouver this year.
Cool. So just going, meeting, having somebody else who he just really does audio?
Yep. He is a sound and music designer guy.
Cool.
That's what he does.
All right.
And he specifically works in the motion design world. And so it's he could do audio for everything, but he has his audience and his niche and does really, really good work for that audience. Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Can you make you bigger?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Stop sharing.
And let's see that cup now.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's nice. That looks like a hand-blown one.
This great shop. Is it Amy? Are you in Raleigh? Jubala is an awesome coffee company.
Cool. It looks really cool. But it does look like moonshine still.
It's not.
Well, we can pretend, I guess. So anyway, let's go back to you having a niche. So you're talking about this guy who does sound design for
Mm-hmm.
motion designers, but you're really doing, and that's the key with this is taking somebody else's lettering or your lettering and animating it. But how else could people use this? Because this is kind of a specific skill. But what other ways could somebody use this skill as a designer?
Yep. The most obvious one is like doing a logo animation. And that's how I've gotten the clients that I've gotten primarily for lettering animation has been related to doing logos. I have gotten a couple of projects that haven't been released yet that are there's a lot of lettering in the work, but yeah, it's a logo animation is a really big one. Because then there's multiple ways you can use that. You can use that in things like show intros or, lower thirds for someone's YouTube show, or like animating a logo in for a website. So like on my austinsaylor.com, my Austin Saylor animates in and pauses. And it's just like a really cool way to catch someone's eye when they get to your website. And I've done that for a couple other websites, and people, like the people who have the website, love it because they're just like, oh, that's so cool. And then their clients really love it. So it ends up, I don't know, that's a really cool way to use lettering animation.
Well, and Matt, so go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, like you said before, learning lettering animation means that you're learning animation. And I'm teaching specific techniques for lettering, but there's no reason that won't work for other shapes and other motion graphics things.
And so, but sometimes it's really good to have a specific thing that you're doing, because you talked about this already, as having small wins early on, because it can be such a beast. And just so you know, Matt is here and he's already started the course. He says he can vouch for the course. He started it and it's already packed with magic. So, and there's awesome, magic in the course. So that's terrific.
The magic is free.
So
no extra charge for that.
That'll be next time when it's not in the beta, right? The magic will be charged for.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell people how much it is? Because we've kind of hinted at it, but I always of feel like, so tell them.
Yeah. So it's going to be $5.99, but this week it is $3.99 for the course, for the intro to After Effects stuff, and the coaching group.
And so the coaching group is what? Explain what that is.
So that one, I have a Facebook group where I have, everybody in the course in that group. And I'm also going to be doing critique for everybody's challenges for the work they're working on, and a live video each week to go over like the last week's material, do some live critique in that video, take questions about concerns or things that aren't working or things that people are struggling with. Basically have some it's not like one-on-one time, but group calls so that we can discuss struggles and make sure everybody's on track and I can address things. And since this is the beta course, I'm definitely taking that kind of feedback and even integrating that into the next lesson to make sure everybody's struggles with After Effects get handled.
And so that's one of the beauties, if you're thinking about launching, not Austin, but if you in the listening are thinking about launching a course, having a beta. Why did you decide to do a beta? And I asked you before we went live today, I said, how long have you been building this? And you said 2 years. You got the URL, I guess, 2 years ago.
Yeah. So I've been building an audience for a little over 2 years and maybe just under 2 years for specifically lettering animation. But as soon as I switched to lettering animation, it went from being a generally creative blog where I write about creativity, a very broad topic, to lettering animation. And all of a sudden people were like, oh, okay. As people were signing up a lot more, and then releasing a guide it was basically just, here are some really basic steps. I put it in a PDF, and it was the stuff that I knew I wanted. I wish I had known when I got started doing lettering animation, and people seem to be able to take that and have a place to start. And my list started growing from there, and then releasing After Effects files for all of that whole project was another big thing that people enjoyed. So for me, it was like a double whammy of goodness, where I was able to really help people a whole lot and get people on this list, so that when I came out with this course that's way more in depth than looking at an After Effects file or a PDF, that, I was able to gauge that people are interested in this. This is something people want to learn. And double whammy of goodness. Yeah. So going this very niche thing was the craziest thing, meeting people at maybe like a business conference or somebody's friend, and they're like not into art at all, and they're like, so what do you do? I'm like, building a course. Oh, for what? It's like, I'm teaching people how to animate. It's a super niche thing. It's about lettering animation. And they're like, what is lettering? And then I'm like, well, it's a specific thing, like when people design letters and form them into words, they're not using fonts. Oh, so like typography. I'm like, yeah. So it's so niche that most people can't even understand it without me going into like a really in-depth conversation. But it totally works for people that are super into it. They're just like, right. I get it. And wow, that's exactly what I want to learn.
Yeah. So when we talked about this just a little bit, so having you last time in our July episode, how you taught yourself, you went to school to be a designer, you went to App State, right?
Yep.
Okay. And I just did that from memory. So good thing, because you didn't answer right away. I'm like, oh no, I'm wrong. But anyway, so you went to App State, you studied graphic design, and then you just kind of got your way. You actually do videos also. Like you don't just do this one thing, but a lot of time your website at Austin Saylor, SAYLOR.com, and I'm going to put that in the chat so people can see it, and it'll also be in the show notes. But you do a lot of other animations as well. So you do videos, you do animations, and then you went real specific with animating lettering. How long did it take you to get that good? So how long, like if the 8 weeks clearly, and I also want to know how long, if I'm taking the course, how much time per week should I commit to working on this stuff?
Yep. So I think that if you put 3 to 4 hours a week into the course, you'll come out at the end feeling much more confident and have skills that you're getting to a place where like, hey, this is looking pretty good. I would recommend putting 10 or 15 if you can, because that's where you're really going to get comfortable. One of the things that I realized is that tutorials give you the ability to mimic someone's work, but having a guide is something that basically a guide is someone who can show you the way to forging your own path. And if you're not, like, I'm there I really want to be there to be people's guide. And if you're only putting 3 hours into the course, that means you're going to go through the training and then, maybe make one thing for that week. But if you're putting in more time, you're going to get that feedback and take action on the feedback. And it's the repetitive doing of getting into After Effects and moving those keyframes around and messing around with the graph editor and getting feedback and going back and changing it and starting to you're going to close that gap of the whole, like, this is my taste and this is my skill. And the more work you're putting into it, the quicker you're going to close that gap. And, so I think that if you do 3 hours, you'll close the gap enough to be like, I am competent. And if you do closer to 10 or 15 hours a week and you're working hard and you're taking feedback and fixing things and making them better and not letting things like, that's not perfect. If you let that kind of thing stop you from making the next piece, then you're not going to close that gap as much as you want.
So
that's kind of my thought on it. Yeah.
So what about if you get the course, is this something where you're sending me something on Monday, or it's go at your own pace? I can go through all 8 weeks at the same time?
So I'm releasing new modules every week. So
Okay.
I think it's going to be Saturdays that I release the new module, because that's when I'm going to go over the last week's module.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as I'm done doing that live video, the next lesson, the next module, that week's worth of stuff is going to be open. Basically, I want people to be able to focus, because I think that anybody from any level, like whether you're new to After Effects or if someone with my skill level came in, like I'm actually going to go through these projects myself, because I know that I can learn from doing the basics over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody who is already competent and good at animation, I want them to be able to come in and go through the same projects that beginner people are going through, because repetitive work on the fundamentals will always make your work stronger.
But it's not just covering fundamentals. You're also doing that creativity part too. So if you feel like you already have the fundamentals and you're like, you're still challenging them to think more creatively, even in those fundamentals, right?
Yeah. So I know that like someone who's on the basic, like the beginner level, their struggles are going to be remembering how to do the keyframes and how to move them along the timeline. So their struggle is going to be more technical, but repetitively doing that over and over again will make that become muscle memory. Mm-hmm. But for the person who already has that muscle memory, they get to push on the creative level a whole bunch. Mm-hmm. So how can I take this technique? Because, like creativity thrives in a box. Like when you can give it parameters, then you can really push things. So that's what I'm trying to do with each project, is giving them a box to work within. And that challenge will be helpful for any level of comfort level in After Effects.
So one of the things, I don't know if you cover this or not in the course, but what about the machine? Because one of the things I asked you, I was like, golly, Austin, you're traveling around. You can't really do a lot of animation just on a laptop. You kind of need a bigger machine. So what are you, and I asked you what your setup is. You do have a laptop, but you also have a big iMac. So what would you recommend for people? And do you cover that at all in the course?
That's a great question. I don't actually cover that.
You can make a PDF quick or in the thing.
It's one of those, that's a figure outable thing. So there's no one right answer. I know some people that do a lot of animation on a laptop, and some people have built their own PCs that are insanely powerful. But the different type of work you work on will determine the kind of type of machine you need. I'm not covering any 3D stuff, and 3D is a serious like CPU hog. So the stuff we're doing in this course, I could do on my laptop, no problem.
Okay.
You don't need a super powerful machine. I know After Effects has certain levels of like requirements for your computer, but most people have those in modern laptops.
Well, and I guess just knowing how, even if you just have a hard drive that you're working off that scratch disk, not your hard drive on your computer, but another hard drive, that would be an easy way for it to keep going a little bit better.
Yep.
I don't know, simple little things. So, because you have been traveling, you traveled around for a while. So once you got to Tempe/Phoenix, what was your setup like, and what is your setup like? Because you have a big iMac, and Brian said, and the cost of a new giant monitor is included in the course. Thanks. No, he said, is the cost. Do you have multiple monitors?
No, kind of. I have my, it's not technically an extra monitor, but I have a Wacom the Cintiq.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I use that as a second monitor or as a tablet. If I'm not drawing on it, I just have it open as maybe sometimes I'll put my After Effects timeline down into that monitor. So I have extra real estate. But the iMac is a big enough screen for me. And then I deal with it on my laptop when I'm on the road working or doing something.
Right. All right. So how has it been traveling and working? Because you're still doing client work. You're launching this course. You do maybe have more focus time now that you're more settled, is that one of the reasons you guys were like, no, we really like, because I think you were going to go to Oregon, right? And spend some time there. That's still the plan, I guess.
Yeah, that's the plan for the summer. We've been this. We call this the year of adventure, and so for anybody that doesn't know or doesn't remember, we left North Carolina for London in March and spent March, April, and May out there, and we traveled a whole lot while we were out there.
And you were working the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was not working as much. I had saved up some money, and so I knew that I wanted, like, while we were in London, and it's so cheap to fly to Amsterdam and visit a friend there, and then Scotland, and all over the place. I intentionally didn't take on as much work while I was out there. But that was one nice thing about freelance, was I can go work from wherever and not take work if I've saved up money and worked my butt off before it. Mm-hmm. And then when we traveled, we came back to North Carolina in June, spent a couple of months out there, and then took a long road trip to get out to Arizona. And then when we got here, I was like, all right, I haven't worked as much and we've traveled a ton. Let's hang out here for a while, buckle down, get the course done, take on some good clients. And now we're back in that hustle, save up some money so that we can move up to Portland in the summer, take a little time off and enjoy Portland. And that's kind of been our thing. And so far it's worked out really great. It's stressful at times, but it's great.
So how would you tell somebody, so after they've kind of taken the course and they kind of want to do maybe some freelance basics. Oh yeah. Karina, she's in Portland, so you'll have to connect with her. But
cool.
So, and she's a lettering too. You should check her. Riddle Sticks. I don't remember how to spell sticks because I don't think it's normal, but she can put it in the chat so that maybe I can tell everybody. But anyway, Riddle Sticks Creative, I think is what it is. There she goes. Oh, it's just regular, like a regular stick. Anyway, so when you're going, how would you tell somebody, like when you decided you came back, you got to Phoenix, and now you're like, hey, I'm going to buckle down, I'm going to get more clients. How easy is that for you to find new clients in that niche or in the niche of animation? Or are you kind of all over the place with doing multiple animation, video, whatever?
Yeah. So when I got out here, I had a couple of projects that I'd been talking to clients about with, and they just weren't, what do you call it? Happening.
Gelling? Yeah.
They just weren't starting. I'd been in the talks about like a couple of really big projects that were going to be like, all right, this is going to be stuff that I'm going to work on for the rest of the summer, 3 months worth of work. And then the emails responses were like a week late and they never happened. So that was when I was like, okay, now I got to like go out and search for work, rather than most of the work up until that point had come to me as word of mouth. Do a project for this guy finds out I'm in this community. Right. And so I was attracting a lot of clients. And at this point, for whatever reason, I wasn't getting as many inquiries that were turning into projects. So I started reaching out to studios that were in the local area. And it was one of those things where the timing was just right. And I emailed one of these companies, and 2 days later I get like the shortest email I've ever gotten. It was, "Are you available Monday and Tuesday?" And I was like, "Yes." And so I get a call, and my dog is being crazy. I can barely hear what he says. And he's like, "All right, cool. Well, it should be pretty easy, but we just need you like Monday through Wednesday or Wednesday through Friday. Can you come in tomorrow at 8:30? And I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "I already got your day rate, so we're good. We're good with that." Wow. I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm in it." So that was just a funny little scenario that got me into meeting that person. And I've met a few people locally that are giving me work. And
so just doing some research on the design firms or companies that are there, and then just reaching out. Did you go to any like AIGA? I know AIGA in Arizona is just the whole state, so they don't have necessarily something just in Phoenix. But so what other things are you doing so that other people could maybe mimic that in their cities?
Good. Yeah, I don't recommend resting on good luck, but I got lucky because I was reaching out to lots of people and being very active. I think, luck happens to those who are taking action. So going to meetups, whether it's like, an AIGA thing or finding communities online for your local area or for your specific niche. Those are the kind of things that have done the most for my career as a freelancer, is just relentlessly being interested in people and building relationships inside of different communities. It's been both personally satisfying and professionally enabling to like reach out and be involved in different communities. Like for me specifically, I think I'm wearing a Wistia shirt. So Wistia does video hosting for businesses. And I went to a couple of their conferences, got to know some of the people that work there, and just got involved in their Slack group, and so I've made friends, and they're like, hey, I know a guy who needs animation. And so building relationships with people who can be your clients or know people who could be your clients is huge. So I don't know many animators that are involved in video production communities, but video producers need animation. And so it made sense. So if you can find, I don't know, that's one of those things that's hard to like pinpoint, but I just happened to find that community was both helpful for me because I was creating videos, and that I could also return that kind of service to them or their friends.
Brian says, Austin Saylor, professional friend. But I think
I love that title.
But networking is incredibly important, and it is about building relationship. It's not just about, hey, what can I get from you, right? It's you being interested, you being helpful throughout, and I think you being present in a lot of these groups has been something. But also, it's that you have this. It's not like you took an 8-week course and you were ready to go and you were doing these big projects. It's that you have this body of work and you always are continuing to challenge yourself to do other projects that are just personal projects, which is also building on, which I think is also important. This is just kind of the diving board. They still have to swim the rest of the way, right? It's still a longer journey, but this is a great start. Yep.
And with the Facebook group, I really want that to be its own community. So in the way that I've gotten so much, I was giving some advice to my cousin recently, some like creative career advice. And when it came down to it, what I realized was like, I've worked hard on the skills, and that's kind of like a starting point. Or like you mentioned, the diving board, it springs you forward, but the community and the communities that I've invested in have been like the places where I've grown the most, both like creatively and network wise. I owe almost all of my like personal and creative growth to the people that I've built relationships with in those communities. And like, I can't imagine just like browsing Vimeo and Dribbble and that being enough inspiration to keep me going. It's all about the relationships.
So some people are asking in the chat, Clea, you're asking what his Instagram handle is. I'm going to put it in the chat, but it's Austin Saylor, Saylor. And that's on Twitter and Instagram, of course. Oh yeah. Maybe. Oh, Brian already did it. Man, Brian's my Vanna. Thank you, Brian. So Matt with 1 T asks, do you set the track for who your course would be best for? Is this for someone wanting to do this full time, or is this overkill if you're just intrigued? I don't know about the last part of that, but
I basically who I'm gearing this towards is somebody who really wants to learn this in and out. I don't think that you need to want to become completely a motion designer by career. I think it's great for people who do logo design, being able to offer that extra service of, hey, you know what else we can do with this logo? It gives you that ability to provide value beyond. It's an upsell. If not even just for your own work. So if you end up creating a course or you're trying to attract an audience to yourself for whatever you're doing, it's an awesome way to add that extra little boost of interest in professionalism and creativity. Like it can add so much to a static design that even if you don't necessarily want to become this completely, that it's a skill that you can use in so many different ways.
How did you
get
the bug? Because how do you know that it's a right fit for you? Like what week, because I think there's some learning curve, right? It's I always think that skiing has a really long learning curve. You're not going to be great the first day, but snowboarding's pretty fast. You can actually get pretty good within 2 days. You can be going down black diamonds. Maybe it's just because I'm short, but I think you can do that on the snowboard. I don't think I would do that very good on skis. But what do you think? Is the learning curve pretty fast or is it a slower curve?
I think with animation, the learning curve is a little slow.
Okay.
It's difficult. Since I didn't have like somebody to guide me in any kind of direction, my animation background, I started with doing very like visual effects type of things. I was trying to figure out how to do explosions or like things that looked like lasers and sparks flying everywhere. And so I was like, oh man, that's what I want to do with After Effects. This is cool stuff. And I just found that really difficult. That kind of stuff is not beginner stuff.
Right.
And so I was struggling. I struggled with it for like a year, not sure if I wanted to keep doing anything with After Effects because I was like, I just can't get this stuff. It's so weird and complicated and stuff. So I ended up taking some courses myself, and it was like this. There was a tipping point in my brain where I was like, okay, I think I can do it. And funny enough, part of it was having a friend show me some tips on exporting things. So when I first started making animations, I was making them for a friend who was working on a video project, and I did not understand rendering. There were so many different codecs to use, and I couldn't figure out which one would keep the file size small, but not like stretch it funny. And I literally kept failing over and over. And I think the end project with that first thing ended up looking god awful. Like I'm pretty sure my hard drive is broken, and that's okay because I don't want to see that anymore. So it was somebody showing me like, oh, that's all you have to do to make this thing like a small file size and look crazy bad.
Do you tell us about that in the course?
Yeah, that's in the course.
Okay. So let's just kind of recap for some people who maybe have come in late. It's an 8-week course. It's given at, now you're drinking something else. Do you already finish your moonshine?
Coffee.
Okay. So I just imagine your desk is full of all different kinds of drinks. Okay. So you have an 8-week course. It's delivered on Saturday. You're going to do a recap, a live where people could join in, or so yes, recap where people can join in, and you're going to go over, people are going to turn in projects. It's both a creative and technical. So if you are already advanced or you already understand After Effects, you'll still be able to challenge yourself. But for people who are like me, who really don't know too much about After Effects, it's the course starts for me. And in that first week, you could get anywhere from 3 hours is the minimum to 15 hours a week is when you will really see a lot of confidence and growth, right?
Yep.
And there's also the Facebook, like the coaching group, where it's not that you're going to be answering all the questions, but I'm sure you'll spend as much time in that group as possible. But really, this course takes you through this week. It is only open through Friday at midnight. Is that when it closes?
Yep. Midnight on Friday. At
Go ahead.
Mountain time.
Mountain time. Okay. So, is there an option? I don't think there is, because I think I looked, but is there different? So sometimes people will have a course where you can pay half up front and then you do $100 every month till you get it paid off or whatever. Is it just, it's a flat fee of $3.99 for this week only? Because when you launch it again, it's going to be $5.99.
Yeah. So it's $3.99 and you can do, what is it? 133. It's broken down into 3 months. So you can do a 3-month payment or the one all out payment.
Yes. Okay, cool.
Yep. So
which may be a little bit better. So again, 8 weeks takes you through about July, not July. I'm not really good with math, but I don't think it's July. I believe it's January 20th. So again, actually, this probably is a really good way to break it down, because a lot of times people have more time over Christmas. Have you been specific about what comes in that week? Because a lot of times maybe people have more time, maybe people don't. Were you specific in what happens in that week?
No. And the way I'm going to do it is basically like get a feel for it. So I'm interacting with people in this Facebook group. I want to make sure I understand people's needs and what's going on. And when I thought about launching this course now, I was like, okay, I don't think it's a good time because it's right at like launching during Thanksgiving. That's a bad week. People are going to be traveling. They're going to forget about it. They're not going to check their emails. And then I was like, no, maybe I'll do it in December. Well, then if it's in December, everybody's already spent all their money on Black Friday stuff. No one's going to have money to buy a course. So that's not a good time. And then like Christmas, that's definitely there's never a good time to do anything.
Right.
So I just decided to go for it. And basically I was thinking that during the Christmas week or whatever, if people are too busy, I'll just say, hey, we'll make this a 2-week session. Take time. Basically what I want people to do is commit to doing it because they have free time, or just commit to putting it off until next week and saying, I'm going to go all in on like hanging out with family.
Right. So what about, okay, so I'm just thinking about return on investment. I love that you broke it down into 3 months, because 133 might be a little bit easier to eat, right? Especially at this time of the year. So how much would you say someone would charge? Not necessarily you, but because you have much more experience than maybe we would, but just return on our investment. If we're spending $3.99 or even $5.99 when you launch the course in the future, how much would you charge for somebody animating a logo? And then or not you, but how much would you, like, what's a range that you would say? And then how long do those normally take? Are you doing these by the length of it or the difficulty? How do you kind of figure that stuff out?
Yeah. To be honest, I am still trying to figure out what the best model is. I don't think there is one perfect model, but the way I try to approach it is, we'll obviously start with talking about goals. Like what do you want to get out of this? Or I want to understand your brand, because the value of an animation is that you can, your brand mark, your logo, that's going to carry your primary characteristics of the brand. Whether it's like professional and serious, but maybe like the people who work there are fun and quirky. So like you can add the fun and quirkiness to the animation, and that brings out a different characteristic. So anyways, presenting what kind of value this can bring to a brand is crucial to helping them understand that this is something worth paying for. And so I try to have those conversations up front when people come to me with, hey, can you animate my logo? So sometimes I'll do things like a day rate or hourly with it's going to take at least a day or two to get you a first draft. Sometimes these are kind of quick turnaround stuff because I've gotten fast at this stuff. But typically I like to have at least a week or two to play with things. And those kind of projects, I think, work best as quoting a project price.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, and this is very rough ballpark.
Right.
I know some people could charge like way more, and some people would be comfortable charging less. But I think minimum $500 for a logo that you animate is definitely a fair place to start, and then kind of up from there.
Because it
And I
also
know that
depends on difficulty, right? Of what they're actually
sure,
wanting, or if they don't have any ideas. But that's where some of that creativity part in this 8-week course is really going to come in, to be pushing you that you don't always solve these logo projects the same way, right?
mm-hmm, right, yep.
I think you were going to
So
say something else.
basically,
Sorry.
I want people to be able to come out of this course ready to like take on clients and feel confident in getting back the cost of the course in 1 or 2 projects.
Right.
I think that should be fairly simple, as long as you're coming in like dedicated and wanting to learn and taking the course very seriously.
And then afterwards, they can still use the Facebook group, right? It's not like you're closing it down. And then you are still going to encourage them to continue practicing and pushing themselves. And if they've built these relationships with the people in the course, then and Matt, I'd love to know where you are on the scale of knowing After Effects or not knowing. Can you type it in the chat? And if you don't want everybody to see, maybe do all panelists instead of all panelists and attendees. And man, Austin, we haven't even covered any questions. I'm sorry. I've just really got excited talking about the course. Are you going to cover different styles? Because really the lettering that you've done is huge difference. Like the L that Bob had is different than the I, the lowercase I, which I love. So Matt says he's played with After Effects before, but was familiar with keyframes, and but this course is helping immensely. That's probably because of the magic, right, Matt? I'm just kidding. Anyway,
yeah,
so
I definitely cover different styles, and the techniques I'm teaching basically can cover any kind of style. It's not style specific. So I will be demoing with maybe Bob's L, or my own piece, like that W and the X.
Mm-hmm.
I'm losing my mind. Yeah, those are very different than Bob's thing. It's very grungy and wiggly and stuff. But so the techniques that I'm teaching in those kind of lessons can cover basically any kind of artistic style. Yeah, so it's very applicable to all sorts of lettering and art design directions and stuff.
So if somebody's learning, if they get in the habit of doing this for 8 weeks and spending maybe Saturday and Sunday or 3 nights a week, kind of spending, 3 hours and then some time on the weekend, do you think it's still, you're still going to encourage them to possibly do that same kind of time commitment? For how long do you think, just to get the confidence up? How long would you suggest after the course? Or
I feel like if you really want to get that confidence level up, it would be to maintain a certain level of practice each week. I'm definitely going to encourage people coming up with their own kind of project to continue with, maybe even collaborating with each other, because I know some people coming in have really strong lettering backgrounds, and some people are coming in with more of an animation background. They're interested in like the lettering specific techniques. So I'm definitely going to encourage people to kind of cross collaborate with each other and do projects with each other, so that they can, mesh their skills together and create really cool stuff and continue animating. So I don't think there's necessarily a point. Some people are going to pick it up and be like, God, this just makes sense. And sometimes some people that learning curve will take a little bit more effort to get across. No two people are the same. For me, the learning curve was really quite steep, but once I got over the hump, so to speak, it was just like, you can do anything with After Effects. This is crazy. This is the best program in the whole world, and I never want to stop using it.
So
And
how about your skills in Illustrator? So were you taking vectors? It seems like that's the other program that you would kind of need. You were taking vectors, or especially if you're doing your own lettering or your own, like you said, it was great for branding, but a lot of people would have that. They would already have that Illustrator skill. So is that one of the things you're kind of assuming your audience has?
to a certain extent, yeah, I'm providing or I'm going to be providing some more, like each week there will be some form of a resource that you can use if you're like, I don't have time to build out some lettering.
Oh,
I just want to learn the animation part. I just wanted to provide something for people who don't have that
time
background in, the time to create it, or the background in Illustrator or design or lettering.
That's really beneficial.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I forgot your question. Something about
Illustrator, just being, that's going to be a benefit for somebody if they understand and can make vector shapes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm teaching how to do that inside of After Effects too.
Oh,
After
cool.
Effects has some pretty cool things that I wish Illustrator had in terms of building out shapes or repeating things. And yeah, it's pretty neat.
That's good. You should get with Vaughn and get them to redo Illustrator. Adobe definitely, I mean, they kind of have us, in handcuffs to some extent, because there's not another program that's as good. But it would be great if Illustrator was doing something funny for me this morning. So I love it, but I also hate it at times.
After Effects was doing something funny for me when I was in crunch mode, and I almost, lost it. Like, I don't know what to do. And it was a funny problem. I'll just explain it really fast. I would open up a new composition, which is like kind of opening up a new little mini project. And there would be this little ball on the screen that had texture and a shadow. There was nothing in the composition, completely blank, no layers whatsoever. And every time I would open up a new composition and there's nothing in it, there's this little orb floating in the middle. I could zoom in on it and see all the textures, and I couldn't get it to go away. And that I wouldn't normally care, because as soon as I put a layer in there, it goes away. So it didn't mess up final renders. But it was while I was recording the lesson on how to create a new composition. So I'm like, do I just say, normally there's not a floating orb in your composition, but I don't want to do that. That's so weird. That's totally unprofessional. Like, After Effects is awesome, except now it's kind of weird.
That is weird.
Yeah. Adobe stuff, sometimes, I mean, they do, it's crazy. It's a huge company, and they make so many freaking products. And I know that they're even, like, the After Effects team is not very big. It's pretty small, which kind of blew my mind. I just imagine like hundreds of people working on this thing, but it's like a dozen or 24 or something.
Right.
But anyways, stuff happens and we figure it out. But that's part of what the creative life is problem solving. And that's honestly what I love so much about my day-to-day stuff. And I don't go to Rachel, my wife, when I necessarily have something amazing that I made. It's more like, guess what? I had this huge problem and I figured it out, and I'm so excited. She's like, cool. Like, but problem solving is so fun.
So
overcoming the problem is.
Yeah, but I think even the, hey, I want this to be bouncy and fun, like the make. I don't know if you want to show that to them real quick. I know we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to, because again, this is kind of like, you have texture. This is also, it really has a emotion. It doesn't just have, it's, it really has a feel, and you're getting something across, and it kind of bounces into place. So those are all things that you're going to be covering, correct?
Okay. Yep. Yeah, and the basics, like the very fundamental part of this, understanding how to do this kind of thing is I like to give all of my letters a physical characteristic. So in this case, make, in my mind, was like a rubber texture. Like the material would be made out of rubber. And so for my E, this one, I decided that these were going to be made out of wood. Well, not the squishy part, but the blocks themselves. So giving them some kind of real world material allows you to feel like how would that material move in space and time. But then, what material might be informed by what kind of emotion you want to get out of it. So make was definitely one of those things where it's not rigid. It needs to be like fluid and fun. So that's why I went with the kind of rubbery and smooth, fun stuff.
Cool. And I think
I definitely go over that kind of stuff.
Matt Vergatis, is the make his?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's a huge fan of you. All right. So
I'm a huge fan of Matt.
He's great. So can you make us big again?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we can keep watching the make. It's really fun. But so a couple last questions. When are you planning to open up the course again?
I don't know exactly when I'm going to open it up.
So that's why people should get it this week. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I really don't know. That's not a marketing phrase that I'm using. I don't know when I'll open it up again. It'll be sometime after this course runs its course, plus time for me to go in and confidently polish and finish up all of the lessons so that what I want to know is, or be confident in before I launch it again, is can people go through this course without me like holding their hand and saying, did that work for you? If not, here's the solution. I want to know that this thing can help someone without me being there. So as soon as I can get that polished and revised for, kind of version 1.1, that's when it'll go out again, which might be February or it might be like closer to summer. I'm not sure yet.
Okay. So do you think that you will have the coaching will be a part of the next time as well? Or is that really going to be something that's really just part of this time?
I definitely plan on doing coaching again. My favorite thing in the world is to help people and know that I'm positively impacting a person. So I'm excited to have the course so that people can go through it and learn a lot, but my heart's in the coaching part of it. So definitely going to offer that again.
So I just want to remind people, it opened on Monday and it closes at midnight Mountain Time on Friday. So it's open only 5 days. So November 20th through November 24th. And hopefully and it's $200 off. Plus you get the Facebook group, you get these calls that are live that are going to be on Saturday. And hopefully, Coach Saylor, that's what we're going to call you. That's what Brian says. I think that's good.
I like it.
Well, Austin, thank you so much. Let me make sure everybody can look at some of your work at austinsaylor.com, Saylor. And then you can go to letteringanimation.com. And that's where you can sign up if you're not necessarily ready to do the course, but you want to maybe get the next release. But again, it can be $133 or whatever it is, $399 divided by 3. It's in 3-part payments. And so that's something they can sign up for. They can just do the $399 now. And then there is that Facebook group that they will be automatically in, and then you'll be doing these Saturday kind of things. So it's about committing to 3 to 15 hours a week during these 8 weeks to kind of learn.
Yeah. And there's a 30-day money back guarantee. If someone gets in there and they're just like, this is not what I thought it was going to be, I will happily refund that money. I definitely don't want to take someone's money if they're just like, nope, this wasn't what I wanted, which my aim is to like make it insanely better than they thought it was going to be. So,
well, you've sold me on it. I'm super excited, and I'm going to sign up. You sold me, Austin. So I really
Cool.
like the 133 thing, that I can spread it out. That really helps me
I think
as a
about
normal
half the
person.
people have been using that anyways.
That's good. I'll have to figure out how to do
Yeah.
that, because I'm not sure how to make that happen. But maybe I can pick your brain on that later.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, well, next week is a rapid recharge. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. So we'll be talking about something, and it will maybe be a quick one. Probably kind of be capping what I'm going to plan on doing in the December and January and beginning of my sabbatical. So I have a little bit more time than to play. So I think that would be a really nice thing for me to learn. Anyway, I just wanted
Cool.
to tell you, thank you so much, Austin, for coming. And I'm excited that everybody came on day before Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. For Adina, who's in Portugal, we're celebrating our country. I don't know. It's not really freedom. It's just us moving over here. But anyway, so I hope everybody has a great holiday. I hope you have a great holiday, Austin.
You too, Diane.
And if anybody needs something from me for the next week, feel free to email me at diane@rechargingyou.com. And if you're listening to it on iTunes, I'd love to get a rating and review. That would be terrific. Or just share it with somebody else. And remember to share it so that Austin can get, it's only until Friday. So this is also something you can get your business to pay for as well. Or if you are a freelancer, this maybe is something that's a great tax write-off also. Right?
Absolutely.
Just learning. Anyway,
thanks for selling the course for me.
I'm excited. You sold it to me, so I'm super excited to get started. So it will be a good challenge. I want to make some birds fly. That's what I really want to do.
Okay.
I'm redoing I think it's similar to these letters. I think I can do it. That's my goal, is at the end to have birds flying on my website. Okay.
Cool.
Anyway, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week for another live Design Recharge.